And konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 164 here at the Tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. So, this is a thing that is happening. So today, or last 24 hours for me anyway, out of left field completely, we get confirmation from Power Rangers and from Bryan Cranston's official Twitter that Bryan Cranston is going to be Zordon in the new Power Rangers movie. I did not see this coming whatsoever. It's really a surprise. It's really a shocker. And I thought it was a joke. I almost thought it was April because, it's just something you wouldn't expect to hear, that somebody like Bryan Cranston would return, let me emphasize that, return to the Power Rangers franchise. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But wow, it's just kind of like, I did not see that coming whatsoever. So today I just kind of want to talk about the casting of Bryan Cranston in the role of Zordon, what impact that has, and what that actually says about what they're doing with this film. Now, I want to get this out of the way before we go ahead and start. Since it was announced, I've seen so many memes and so many mashups of Power Rangers and Breaking Bad. And all I gotta say is, please stop it. I don't want to go for the next several months, year, however long it's till next movie. I think it's next March. I don't want to go that entire time, and every time I pull up a Power Ranger article, I have to see something related to Breaking Bad. I got news for you, folks. I don't watch the show. I don't want to watch the show. I never will watch the show. I'm sorry, but I don't want to watch a television show about a guy who makes meth. I really don't. I'm really not into this anti-hero thing that people are so obsessed with. I mean, it really speaks to the culture that the most popular television character within the last decade is a criminal who sells drugs. And you can go on and say, yeah, it's not about that. It's about something else, has a deeper meaning. I'm sorry, you had me. You lost me when high school teacher makes meth. I'm sorry, I'm just not interested in that show. I've had to watch clips of Bryan Cranston act in the show, so I know he's a talented actor, but I knew that before then. All I'm saying is, I'm not going to go ahead and talk anything about Breaking Bad. I'm not going to bring up any references to it, and don't try to get me into it or try to persuade me or anything like that. That's going to end now. But I'm just upset I have to deal with this from now on, that from here to eternity, whatever, unless Bryan Cranston kills it as Zordon and history remembers him in that role as opposed to, I think it's Walter White as the character, then I just don't want to have to deal with this, folks, okay? That's my little rant right there about Breaking Bad and all that. Take that how you will. But let's actually talk about something with substance, something about the actual movie. Now, one of my biggest fears when they announced this film with the director and the original cast is I basically said we need to have an A-list star. We need somebody who's going to bring that instant credibility, recognition into this film. Because unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to look at a Power Rangers movie in the same way that you and I do. They don't look at it as the next Marvel movie or the next major franchise. They just look at it as a Power Ranger movie, which means significantly less to them for whatever reason. So I don't think that Bryan Cranston was necessarily brought in on this project because he's a good actor or that he's the best role for Zordon. Again, he's a great actor, no question there. But he's not the best role for Zordon. Personally, I would have picked Patrick Stewart. I think Patrick Stewart was born to play the role of Zordon. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. But we got Bryan Cranston, and if you didn't get the one you really wanted, your second choice is always good, right? And who knows if Patrick Stewart was approached. But again, that's who I would go ahead and pick. The reason I think they bring Bryan Cranston in is because he is still a popular name. Everybody, think about this. When Godzilla came out, what was everybody talking about? They were talking about Bryan Cranston. They really weren't talking about Godzilla. They were talking about Bryan Cranston. And what were people pissed off about in that movie, other than Godzilla not showing up in the film, was that Bryan Cranston, and spoilers, wasn't in the entire film. He was gone by the first act. So that got people talking because they had a very popular actor in there. So I'm looking at the casting of Bryan Cranston in the same way that they got Alan Rickman in the Harry Potter films, Donald Sutherland in the Hunger Games, and even to an extent Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in the X-Men films. You are able to instantly put credibility because you have an A-list talented actor to come in to this material that a lot of people are not familiar with. I mean, other than reading the books, who really knew who Harry Potter was when it first came out? And you heard of a Harry Potter movie, like, wait, what? But then you hear Alan Rickman's in, it's like, might be interesting. Alan Rickman's in there. Same thing with Hunger Games. Nobody knew Jennifer Lawrence at the time she starred in this film. Well, I mean, not really. And still, she's still kind of a B-list celebrity in my opinion. But Donald Sutherland is in the film. I've never seen the films, but I'm intrigued that Donald Sutherland is in the film. So, again, it gives me a little bit of interest in it. So I'm assuming that's going to be the same with Power Rangers. Is people are going to look at like, oh, it's Power Rangers movie. Oh, Bryan Cranston is in it. I might want to go see this film. So that's why I think he was hired for this role. Is he has that name, he has that recognition for the film, and it's going to help bring people in. I would also not be surprised if this would lead to maybe another A-list celebrity appearing in the film, or even in a potential sequel. Because once you get Bryan Cranston in there, and if the film is successful both critically and financially, then I have no doubt that more celebrities are going to be interested in doing this franchise. I mean, you could see Robert Downey Jr., Christian Bale, other superheroes. I mean, I don't know. Just spitballing some names out there. Heck, could you imagine Tom Cruise in a Power Rangers movie? He's still relevant, right? I think he is. I mean, this could lead down the line to more stars actually appearing in the Power Ranger films, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, the important thing is that it's a good movie. That's what I want first. But again, instant credibility to the film by having Bryan Cranston in there. And of course, the interesting thing about Bryan Cranston is that when he was in early Hollywood, late 80s, early 90s for him, he was doing Preparation H commercials and all that, but he was already in Power Rangers. He's actually a part of the Power Rangers franchise. For those of you not aware, he was the voice of the Twin Man and Snizzard from the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, of course, go watch those episodes and you really can't tell that's him. They modify his voice, he modified his voice, so he's completely unrecognizable in that role. But he's in there, his name is in the credits, and of course he's admitted to it. So it's just kind of great that we actually have a Power Ranger alumni who's been so successful coming back to the franchise, which arguably kind of helped his career. I mean, yeah, he had Seinfeld, which was kind of his launching point to get into things like Malcolm in the Middle, but come on. I'm sure going into Seinfeld and those other shows, like, oh, you have Power Rangers on your resume. I'm sure that was positive for somebody out there. Um, so it's kind of a homecoming for him and playing the major role of Zordon. And I imagine this is going to be something akin to motion capture. They're probably going to send him down a booth somewhere and put little dots on his face and all that. And I can't wait to actually see how they're going to do that, in post production, how he's actually going to go ahead and look. So that's going to be very interesting for me. So there really isn't much else for me to go ahead and talk about, guys. I really just wanted to get on this topic since everybody's talking about it's the big thing that's out there. And again, just reiterate my points. A-list celebrity, bring credibility to the film, and he's a good actor. And the thing is, I hope that he takes his material seriously. I mean, there are actors out there who will be in certain films and will not act as hard, if you will, because they don't respect the material. And I'm hoping that Cranston sees the potential in the material and sees the gravitas of his role, because he has a presence, certainly, that he can play Zordon. He can command an audience. He can command other actors, and I really hope Dean Israelite just kind of gives him his. I hope Dean Israelite just lets him do what he wants to go ahead and do with this role, because it just seems more and more every day this is going to be a more serious film, and I really hope it is, and I just hope that Cranston gives one of his best performances out there, that he brings up to 11, if you will, or whatever, and just I would love to see Bryan Cranston surpass, every Zordon we've had in the past, for him to be the definitive Zordon. That would be great. That would be awesome. He has the ability to do it. let's just see if he can do it. Let's take the material seriously. Let's have him give the best performance of his life. And frankly, hey, just think about it for a second. Bryan Cranston as Zordon could help the film win awards that are not technical awards, because Power Rangers will probably get some sort of technical award out there. You never know, be nominated for a few things. But could you imagine a Power Ranger film get a nomination from anybody for Best Acting or Best Supporting Actor of Bryan Cranston as Zordon? I even wonder, since he is not going to be like the old man in the tube. He's a relatively younger actor. He's not in his 20s or 30s, but my point is, I wonder if we'll see any Zordon outside the tube kind of stuff, like in flashbacks, because they seem to be making Rita more proactive, because there is a scene of her outside the palace, possibly confronting the Power Rangers. I wonder if we'll get a scene, of maybe those two working off of each other. I'd love to see what kind of chemistry that those two have, because think about it for a second, Zordon and Rita in Power Rangers, even in the movies, never met in person. We never saw them interact in person with each other. Isn't that kind of odd when you think about these two mortal enemies? I wonder if there's going to be an opportunity to do that, whether he's in the head of the tube or if there is some sort of throwback with him prior to being in the time warp. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, so enough of my rambling. That's all I got. What do you guys think about Bryan Cranston being in Power Rangers? What do you think about him being a Zordon? And what does this mean overall for the film? Leave your comments below. Let me know. And thank you for listening. Until next time, the tavern is now closed.